He had challenged her by saying that Christianity would not be as large a religion as it is if it wasn't because of Constantine.
I mean, DC Comics Constantine is a pretty cool character.
You know where I can find John Constantine?
My name is John Constantine.
This is Constantine.
But his theology is pretty far off mainline orthodoxy.
Whose son? God's son?
No, the other one. The devil had a son, too.
I guess God has a plan for all of us.
God's a kid with an ant farm, lady. He's not planning anything.
Because Constantine, his understanding, this would be 4th century, the emperor of Rome, of the Roman Empire.
Oh, that Constantine. Welcome to Paulogia, where a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians. If you're new to the channel, please take a second to tap on the subscribe button so that you'll be notified when new science, theology, and news videos come out. And we've recently launched an audio-only edition that you can find wherever the finest podcasts are gathered. Apologist Greg Koukl recently addressed a charge someone made to his niece that
Christianity is only popular because there was an emperor, became a Christian, forced everybody else to be a Christian, so then it spread all around, and kind of that's why it's like it is.
In case you're unaware, Constantine was an emperor of Rome. But before that, he was a military leader fighting a battle in Italy. According to accounts of his life, one night before waging war, Constantine had a vision in a dream of a cross shape. He ordered that the symbol should be painted on his soldiers' shields, and was ultimately successful in that battle.
And there was much rejoicing.
After the fact, he learned of the cross's symbolic significance to Christianity, and immediately converted in gratitude for warfield blessings. It wasn't until later that he learned about the details and the doctrines.
Constantine came beginning early 4th century, so you have 300 years or so, 100, 200, maybe 400 years after Jesus.
Constantine ruled from around 313 AD to 337 AD. Jesus died in 33 AD, so that's 300 years. I know, Greg. Math is hard.
And he was converted to Christianity, apparently. And what this resulted in, now I'm just giving you history right now, is it resulted in the centuries-old persecution of Christians ending.
Unfortunately, Greg isn't any better at history than he is at math. But it's okay. We'll walk through this together.
Okay, Diocletian came before him. He was a terrible persecutor of Christians.
That's correct. In 303 AD, Emperor Diocletian made Christianity illegal in the Roman Empire. Note that at no time in the first 270 years of Christianity was it ever illegal before that, even under Nero. It had almost 3 centuries with no official sanction. Arrests in those first 270 years were for disturbing the peace or other disruptive acts.
And when you had a friendly on the throne, then persecution of Christians stopped.
That's not completely correct. The Diocletian persecution ended in 311 AD with the Edict of Serdica by co-emperor Galerius. Co-emperors were a thing in this period, meant to be a power balancer and to ease successions and limit assassinations. Diocletian was still around, and in fact, expressed regret over his initial command. 2 years after that, with the Edict of Milan by co-emperors Constantine and Licinius, Christianity went from decriminalized to fully positively legalized, with full religious freedom within the empire. Restitution was even made for Christian property seized during the years of criminalization. Don't get me wrong, 8 years of official persecution is a long time and a terrible thing. But we also need to be real about the brief period this was in the grand scheme of things.
Christianity did not become the religious coin of the realm, as it were, at that time.
Yes, Constantine's personal actions fell short of making Christianity the official religion, but his endorsement from the crown was unmistakable. Constantine commissioned and financed Christian churches in Rome and across the empire. He called and attended the First Council of Nicaea to determine once for all the doctrines of Christian orthodoxy. Christ's initials appeared on Constantine's coins. He made Sunday a state day of rest. Any soldier, senator, or citizen wanting favor with the emperor would have done very well to at least pay lip service to being a Christian. just as I took up watching reality TV in the early 2000s in order to integrate myself to my new boss, who really liked to engage in post-show analysis discussions. Almost overnight, Rome became an empire that rewarded Christian adherence.
Everybody wasn't forced to be a Christian. It wasn't the national religion. None of that is true about Constantine.
Greg is technically correct, but seemingly very pedantic here. It was the very next emperor, Theodosius, who did make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire in 380 AD with the Edict of Thessalonica. But this was merely the next step in the progression started by Constantine. This would be like claiming George Lucas isn't responsible for Star Wars because Disney put out that last Star Wars film. That Steve Jobs wasn't the driving force behind the iPhone because Tim Cook took over Apple. That Moses wasn't the leader of the Exodus because his brother Aaron was the one who led the people the final steps into the Promised Land. If not for Constantine's conversion, Theodosius would never have made that decree.
Well, it's a good thing that he made it legal, but it isn't like he was the one who made Christianity, who gave it its place in history.
Video games existed before 1975, but Atari's Pong popularized it, yanked the concept from a fringe niche, and flung it into the mainstream. While video games may well still exist in an alternate universe where Atari was never formed, it would be ridiculous to deny that Atari was the catalyst in our universe that made video games part of our culture and secured their place in history.
Because the fact is, the Christian faith had already been flourishing for 400 years, oddly enough, under great persecution. And it spread to the far corners of the Roman Empire.
I mean, it depends on how you count. Our primary data point is a brief report by Church Father Eusebius in his work Church History, making a listing of the number of priests, deacons, supported widows, and the like. Christian historian Adolf von Harnack crunched these numbers in 1997 to extrapolate a church size of roughly 30,000 people, or roughly 5% of Rome in the mid-3rd century. Harnack has no data to support this, but reckons that this would have grown to about 7 to 10% by the start of the 4th century, extrapolating to 4 to 6 million Christians in the 60 million citizen empire. It is this estimate that most Christians hold up today. However, in 2009, Yale historian Ramsay MacMullen examined the archaeological evidence of the Christian church buildings in the mid-4th century. So, 100 years after the Eusebius data point, finding that there was capacity for, at most, 2% of the population to attend worship services. It is difficult to imagine, and indeed counter to church tradition, that worship attendance would have shrunk significantly after the religion was made illegal, suggesting that 3rd century estimate should maybe be closer to 1%. But regardless, these are guesses upon guesses and haggling over what are ultimately small numbers compared to what was to come. These graphs are based on the data from the Rodney Stark, no relation to Tony, book The Rise of Christianity. As you can see, while the 250 to 300 AD range was good for Christians, it's after 313 that the movement skyrocketed. The year of Constantine's conversion, and making it the preferred religion in Rome. Now, whether that was part of a divine plan, or merely the result of some bad dream, to pretend that this event wasn't the catalyst that propelled Christianity into the cultural influence that it is, would be to stick your historical head in the ground.
Constantine wasn't responsible for the spread of Christianity.
Wasn't he, though?
It permeated and penetrated the entire region because of its internal power.
Citation needed.
So his thinking then is that my niece was merely a Christian product of her culture. Because if she grew up in a different place, she would have with a different history, then she'd have a different religious conviction.
Well, Greg opened this by relaying an argument that Christianity was popular because of Constantine. And I think we've made a strong case that Constantine's conversion led to the numbers exploding in a way that the apostles never achieved. Now that may well have been the divine plan. It seems a strange thing to deny, especially on these minor technicalities.
Now, there's a common sensibility to that, isn't there? That, as people have raised a question, well, if I had grown up in Iran or Iraq, then I probably wouldn't be a Christian. I would be Muslim.
It's not just common sense. Studies like this one examine the relative influence of different factors on religious belief, and find that personal community relationships have the strongest influence on belief and commitment. Many people will admit they are the religion they are because they were raised that way.
And incidentally, this is a challenge fairly frequently brought up by atheists. Well, you believe in Christianity because of the culture that you were raised in. And that's a way of dismissing Christianity.
It's not an argument against the truth of Christianity. It's a charge against the perceived epistemological rigor of that particular Christian. If a Christian hasn't investigated the core claims of their faith, but go along as part of tradition and social club, then it might be a fair charge. It's entirely case by case. I've even heard Greg deride this cultural Christianity. So why dig your heels in now? But what about you? Do you hold your core beliefs because you were taught them as a child? Have you since held your beliefs up to the very best arguments against them to see how they stack up? If not, are they your beliefs? Or are you borrowing your parents' beliefs? Your culture's beliefs? If you're looking for some of those careful, rational evaluations of the claims of Christianity, the video on screen now would be a great place for you to start. Thanks for watching. I'll see you over there. Until next time, later.